Master Your Mindset Radio, Episode 4.
Welcome to Master Your Mindset Radio, the show where we empower you to conquer limiting beliefs and transform your world with your gifting and purpose. Now for your host, Elizabeth Nader.
Hi friends, welcome back to Master Your Mindset Radio. Today's topic is about love languages and mindset. So many of you know or remember a book written by Gary Chapman called The 5 Love Languages. Awesome book. I think it first came out in the early 90s. It's been around for quite some time and definitely has staying power. This book has helped so many people and their relationships. It's truly been a game changer for a lot of people. And I started to think about it recently because I think about the love languages when I talk to people about mindset and marriage, for example, or mindset and parenting. Anytime we have two people who are trying to communicate, two people who are trying to build a relationship, better a relationship, and definitely in the realm of parenting, we have to look at love languages often to understand how one person perceives love and another person perceives love. I think that Gary had this absolutely right. It's almost like we're not talking the same verbal language because we rarely marry or give birth to children or marry spouses who speak the same love language as we do. The concept is that there are 5 different ones. In case you aren't familiar with this, I definitely recommend the book. They now have it for children, and it's just been around for so long. But here are the 5 love languages as Gary lays them out in the book, just to remind you. 1 is words of affirmation. 2 is quality time. 3 is receiving gifts. 4 is acts of service, and 5 is physical touch. So those are the main 5 love languages. And like I said, this has been tested and been so true for so many people. I think that all of us can relate to which language is number 1 for us. Sometimes we'll have 1 or 2 that kind of hit the top. But the idea is that those 5 aspects are how we see love. So for example, words of affirmation. If my spouse is speaking positive words to me, affirming words to me, I'm not only hearing the words, but I'm hearing love. To me, that is love. To some people, that's nice that you're doing that, but it doesn't mean anything to them because it's not their love language. When you look at quality time, that is about spending time with each other. And that actually is my love language. My number 1 love language is quality time. So when my husband stops anything else he's doing and is purposeful to spend time with me, to sit and talk to me, it can be as simple as just a conversation over coffee or whatever it is, I then feel more loved because that is my number 1 love language. So I'm saying to myself, he must love me because he's spending quality time with me. That's not his love language, so he has to work at it to make sure that he does that enough so that I feel that he loves me. Number 3 is receiving gifts. Now, I have a hard time relating to this one because it doesn't come up for me as a top one, but there are some people who really see this as their number 1 love language. And while it may seem like it's easy to say, well, if you give me a gift, I feel loved. Really, this is honestly, truly people who feel that when gifts are given, that sign of the effort to get the gift, the thought of thinking of that person, even something small, you will find that when people have this love language, it's not all about big gifts. It's the idea that someone would think of them and take the time and the effort in getting a gift to give to them that makes them feel loved. Acts of service is number 4. I think that is probably my husband's number 1 love language, and that has to do with someone doing something for you. Anything as simple as picking up your dry cleaning, doing your laundry, thinking ahead that you need something for tomorrow morning, putting something in your bag, taking care of something for you, whatever it is, just surrounding you with acts of service that make your life easier and that make you feel like that person is thinking about me and that person loves me. So some people have that as their number 1 love language. And the fifth one is physical touch. And this can be as simple as hugs and kisses and just touching someone on the arm. Some people really need that physical interaction. Many children are this way, and sometimes children will change their love languages as they grow, but a lot of them need and crave those hugs and that physical touch that reaffirms them and says, you are loved. So when it comes to marriages and any kind of long-term relationships, it is so important that we understand these. I mean, I can tell you it's kind of funny in my marriage because while quality time is my number one love language, my husband's is acts of service. So this is what happens with love languages. We tend to love the person out of our own language. I mean, we speak our own language more easily. We understand our own language more easily. So if we get into an argument and he feels badly about it, he will do something for me like go make me a sandwich or a snack. And he thinks that's an act of service, showing me that he loves me and he feels bad. And while I think that's sweet, it really doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't get across what he intends. And if he were to, though, sit down with me, look me in the eyes, talk to me, spend that time, then I would get that communication. Now, as adults, we all know this. If we spend the time, we talk about it. In my marriage, I know many friends talk about it, but yet it is such a knee-jerk reaction for us to see love out of our love language and to give love only out of our love language that it does take some effort to overcome it, and effort to overcome your default, which is to only love someone out of the language that you understand. So this really comes to a mindset issue. We have to work on limiting beliefs that we don't even realize are there. And this is there are two ways that affects us. One would be in our inability to pick up on, notice, to attempt to care about somebody else's love language and then actually speak to them in that love language, because we have our own limiting beliefs and our own things that hold us back, and lies that we believe, and lack of confidence, and things that trap us into what we only understand and what we're used to, and the things that make us feel safe. And so we have a tendency not to step out and try to love someone out of what we think their love language may be, because we're afraid of rejection. If we haven't done it, it doesn't come easy. It is hard work. And so the easiest thing to do is stay in our corner in a relationship and just continue to walk in our own language, speak our own language, and expect to be understood, and expect the other person to do the same. But as I've talked about before, expectations drain other people. We should have an expectation for a relationship that says, let's paint a picture where both of us are working on speaking in each other's language of love. Each of us is working on a better understanding of the other person that allows us to show them love in a way that person truly understands. So the first mindset aspect of love languages is just us dealing with our own fears of rejection and our own fears of not wanting to try to understand someone else because it hasn't worked out in the past, or just the fear of something new and the desire to stay in the comfortable. That really builds walls around each of us, and we become silos in a relationship. But the second thing that I think comes into play with love languages as mindset is sometimes we can use this in a manipulative way without even realizing it. So all of us have, to some degree, broken mindsets. All of us have, to some degree, limiting beliefs and lies that have held us back and we've believed. And to the degree that each of us is working on that, we'll have less and less. But generally speaking, most people in the world don't do much, or are not aware of the limiting beliefs that are really leading them in life and are really creating the life that they're experiencing. So as we look at love languages, if we don't understand the lies that we've believed about ourselves, or the limiting beliefs, or where our pain is coming from, or the things that we need to heal, we may walk into a relationship and use these love languages as manipulation. So for example, if we were abused as a child physically in some way or another, it is unlikely that we will want to or be able to easily speak the language of physical touch to our spouse if that's the language he or she needs. Now, it's not that we intend to manipulate this or intend to hurt them, but we haven't dealt with the hurt and the pain that we have. We haven't dealt with the limiting beliefs and the lies that abuse and that pain put in our own subconscious and is now really controlling a lot of the decisions we make. So it becomes an issue of, well, I may recognize that that's your language of love, but for some reason I'm unable to deliver that. And that is in large part, in some cases, especially for when it comes to physical abuse, due to past experiences that have been painful. And so while we don't deal with all of those issues we have, we are then unable to really show love to the other person, and it creates an issue between us. I think if you look at a lot of marriages and relationships, a lot of the friction comes from our past hurts, our past wounds that we haven't dealt with, and then therefore our inability to love the other person in the way that they need. But if we also use this to, for example, if we received gifts from our father and that's how he showed us love, but he never spent time with us and we actually missed him greatly, but whenever he brought home a gift to try to make up for it, then that became our love language by default. Then we look at our spouse and say, unless you do that, you don't love me. That isn't really the pure love language. That becomes what I think is a little bit of manipulating the situation, because you haven't healed from the fact that your father never spent time with you. You haven't healed from the fact that you were wanting other things from him, but the only thing that he delivered was this gift giving in order to make himself feel better about him not showing up in your life. And you began to take that as sort of like, well, if that's what I can get, then that's what I'll take. So we have to be careful then. Is that really our love language, or is that almost a manipulation of the other person to say, you have to do this because this is the only thing I know that feeds my soul, when we haven't actually healed ourselves enough to understand ourselves at the level that we can honestly say, hey, my true love language is this. And we can come from that place of innocence, if you will, come from that place of pure motives, and try to help the other person understand us in a way that allow them to show us love, and vice versa. So mindset, I think, plays a big part of all of this. I love this movement that's been around since the early 90s. I think love languages are absolutely true. And I see it in my own life, I see it in my friends' lives, and I start to see it with my children. So I do think as well that we want to make sure our children develop a love language that is truly the way God made them, and not a result of pain or manipulating circumstances in order for them to survive any difficult situation, that we are trying to get to understand them in a way that we can love them in the language that God put inside of them. We're all different that way. But I encourage you to, while you should get into love languages and understand them and understand your relationships that way, first, deal with your limiting beliefs. First, deal with any hurt, pain, or lies related to how you love and how you feel loved. Because I believe those limiting beliefs will blind you to your true love language and will make it virtually impossible for you to truly love the other person, whether it be a spouse or a child or a friend, in the language that they need to hear it. Because we're bound up in our own issues. So let's first work on the pain. Let's first work on the lies and the limiting beliefs that tell us things that then drive us to do certain things that end up not helping us. So while I love everything about the 5 love languages, and I so recommend it, I say do it in a healthy way. And during the process, things may come up for you, especially if you and your spouse are digging into this and saying, we are committed to figuring out each other's love languages. We are committed to trying to love each other from that. We are committed to making sure that we are sensitive to that so that we can have the best possible relationship. All of that is great, but in that process, limiting beliefs and lies will come up and pain will come up. And that is the time I encourage you to deal with it. And those are the times where you have the opportunity to heal from something that you may not even had known that was driving you or was behind certain behaviors. So guys, if you haven't gotten the book, get the book. Put it with my book. Get the Love Languages book while you go through Conquering Your Limiting Beliefs. Improve your relationships. Step out and don't be afraid of rejection. conversation and try to understand that other person. And you'd be amazed how they will blossom when you speak to them in a language that they understand. And it will make them that much more willing to do the same for you. And hey, if you're at a stalemate with someone in a relationship, you've got to make the first move. Somebody needs to be willing to step out and do that. And by the way, parents, it's one of the best ways to get to know your children as they grow is to watch them and try to figure out what their love language is and try to speak to them in that language in a way that will affirm them. We have the opportunity to limit the pain that they experience in life, to help them see things correctly so limiting beliefs don't take hold. And we should take that job very, very seriously. So that is my quick review of love languages. I really hope that it blesses you, and I hope that you can use that to improve your relationships and continue to master your mindset and get rid of those limiting beliefs so you can live a better life. Talk to you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to Master Your Mindset Radio. Before you go, if you want to be part of a free online community of like-minded individuals for support, resources, and inspiration as you conquer your limiting beliefs and pursue your purpose, go to elizabethnader.com/community. That's elizabethnader.com/community, or search for Master Your Mindset Academy private group on Facebook. Looking forward to seeing you online.